Hello, friends. It's Miss Marshall here for your day 4 or Thursday's work in your packet. So today's is focused on multi-step problems involving division. So I wanted to go over what to expect today. A lot of what you're going to have to do today is really think. If you think about what multi-step means, we've talked about that. Multi, you've learned what Iskanatka means many. So each of these problems will require many steps to solve, which means you're going to have to use a lot of your problem solving skills to be able to solve it. It's not that you can't do the division, it's do you know what to do with the numbers provided? So before I go over some tips and hints for today's work, I'm going to kind of model a problem for you, and hopefully that will help you understand what you need to be thinking and how you need to be thinking when you approach these problems. So the problem we're going to be working on is a farmer is packing grapefruit into boxes. He packs the same number of grapefruit in each box. He's packed a total of 264 grapefruit into 22 boxes. He still has 180 grapefruit that must be packed. How many more boxes must the farmer pack? So I've read through it. I've also looked at those answer choices. But my first thing to actually do is to make sure I understand the problem. You know that entails our who, what, and goals. So I'm going to start with that first. So first, I'm going to do my who, which is our farmer. What is the farmer doing that's helpful to solving the problem? What he's doing is, look at that first bullet, he's packing grapefruit into boxes. I use GF for grapefruit, not girlfriend, grapefruit, okay? And then my ultimate goal, I'm going to look here. How many more boxes must the farmer pack? So I know it should be blank more boxes to pack. Look at how many times boxes is repeated in this problem. I know that that's going to be super important. I also know that really helps me with my operation. I know oftentimes if I'm putting things into boxes, that may mean equal groups, which could be multiplication, or it means I'm splitting something, which could be division. So that's important. So now that I've understood, okay, I have a farmer, he's packing something into boxes, and I need to know the more boxes he needs to pack. Then I go to my important information. So I'm going to go ahead and check this part off because I have already worked with that bullet. He's packed the same number in each box. I kind of put that in my what. The next part is he's packed a total of 264 grapefruit into 22 boxes. So that lets me know he's already packed some. So for me, if he has 264 grapefruit and he's put those into 22 boxes, that makes me think he has split that 264 into 22. So that right there makes me think division. So that makes me think that maybe my first step needs to be 264 divided by 22. Again, I don't have a division symbol. I use my fraction bar because remember, fraction bar means division. So I'm first going to do 264 divided by 22. But I need to kind of think about, well, how will that be helpful? And will that help me achieve my goal? So if I took this 264 grapefruit and I'm putting them into boxes, when I do that, that'll tell me the number of grapefruit per box. And that might be important because if he has more grapefruit in this third line to pack, he's got to know how many to put per box. If he doesn't, how am I going to know how many boxes he needs? So my first step seems to know the grapefruit per box. So it seems like I'm going to have to do 264 divided by 22. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I've got it set up here, 264 divided by 22. Miss Marshall's going to use partial quotients, as I know that's what often a lot of you do. So I'm going to kind of think, how many 22s get me close to 264? If I don't know that off the top of my head, I'm going to use my friendly numbers. I'm going to think about my 5s and my 10s, okay? Now, I think I can use 22 times 10 because that's 220. So I'm going to actually do that. So I'm going to use 10 here. So I'm going to subtract my 220. Okay, 4 minus 0 is 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. and 2 minus 2 is nothing. So then I have 44. Well, that's not too bad. How many 22s go into 44? That's easy. 2. Okay, if I didn't know that, you could add your 22s here to check that. You could do 22 times 2, and 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, so that's right. I got to subtract it to make sure I have no grapefruit left. So then I know I'm finished, so then I use my partial quotients, I add them together, and then I'm going to get 12. Now again, if I'm getting 12, I need to make sure I'm right. If I'm dividing, y'all, we know we check it by multiplying. So I'm going to do 22 times 12 to make sure I get 264. So this is my check step. So 22 times 12. 2 times 2 is 4. Oops. 2 times 2 is 4. I am finished with that first line. I go to the second line. I put a placeholder for my ones place. Now I'm ready to start. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. I add my 2 lines or my partial products. 4 plus 0, whoops, that line is not perfect, is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. And then 2 plus nothing is 2. I do get 264, so I know that 12 would be that correct answer for 264 divided by 22. Now, I got to go back to my problem and figure out, is 12 my answer? So remember, if I did 264 divided by 22, that is telling me the number of grapefruit per box. So it's 12 grapefruit per box. And look, I see 12 over here. But remember, just because I see 12 doesn't mean that's the answer. They could be trying to trick me. Let me go back to my goal. My goal wants blank more boxes to pack. So I need to think, is 12 the amount of boxes to pack? No, 12 is the grapefruit per box. So you know what I can do? I can go ahead and mark A out because they're just trying to trick me because that was my first step. So now I know I've got to do more. I've done one step. It's not enough. It doesn't make sense. So I need to keep reading. I'm also going to check this second bullet off because I've done that. I now need to focus on what other information I have. It says he has 180 grapefruit that must be packed. Okay, so he has, I'm going to go ahead and start my second step. He has 180, grapefruit. And it said he wants to pack them. But he needs to know how many boxes to pack them in. Well, if he's trying to find his boxes, and we know there's 12 grapefruit per box, that makes me think, well, if I take the 180 and let's show a box here. Here's a box. How many go in that box? There's 12. And I keep doing that until I use all of my grapefruits. Why wouldn't that be 180 divided by 12? Because if I'm taking 180 grapefruits, I'm putting them in groups of 12, that I can just count my number of boxes at the end, and that'll tell me my goal. So my second step seems to be 180 divided by 12. Again, I'm using my fraction bar for division. So I'm going to try that. I have it on this page. Again, set it up like partial quotients. You guys can use standard algorithm if you want. You can use your multiplication facts to help you. Whatever division strategy you need to use. 180 divided by 12. Again, I'm going to think of my 5s and my 10s. I'm going to start with 10 because I know that 12 times 10 is 120. And I can take 120 from 180. I have enough. Let's subtract that. 180 minus 120 is going to be 60. So I think of how many 12s go into 60. Again, I'm going to start with my 5s or my 10s. 10's too much. I don't have enough, so let's try 5. Oh yeah, and 12 times 5 is exactly 60. Again, seeing that you know your multiplication facts, it's very, very simple. If you did not, then you may need to start with a smaller number. 60 minus 60 is 0, so I have no grapefruit left. So it looks like I'm supposed to get 15. Again, some of you like to stop here. but you need to be doing a check step. If I divided 180 divided by 12 to get 15, I can check that's right by doing 12 times 15, and I must get 180. 5 times 2 is 10. I leave the 0. I carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 60. You see that 60 there. I am done with that place value, so I'm going to mark that out. I'm going to put a 0 in my ones place. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Right there, you see 120 plus 60 is going to be 180. So I know that I am correct. So I got 15. So let me go back to my question. This, remember, we decided would tell me number of boxes. And I get 15. Okay, so now I need to decide, do I have more steps? Is 15 my answer? So I go back to that goal statement, blank more boxes to pack. Well, this is blank number of boxes to pack. So I'm pretty sure that 15 is going to be my answer. So I make sure I go back to my goal statement and put 15 there, and then I finalize my answer by circling my answer choice. So if Miss Marshall was to submit this problem to Canvas, I would need to include this page, and that page because it includes all my work. Y'all, that took me a good amount of time. So for these problems that you're going to have to do today, you're going to have to really think carefully. Start with your who, what, and goal. Make sure you identify the correct operation. Make sure you're doing a check step. Y'all, these problems may be hard, but it's how you practice is what you're learning. If you're not practicing well, there's no point in doing it. So we're going to go through these questions real quick, and I'm going to leave you a couple hints, and then I'll leave you to make sure you're doing it on your own. So number 1, a rectangular playground has an area of 3,780 square meters. If the width of the rectangle is 35 meters, find the length. So I see 3 important words here: area, width, and length. Okay. On this question, I would think of what you know about area. That seems to be important to this. I feel like if you know what to do for area and you can figure out where these numbers go and understand what you're looking for, which is the length, you'll be able to solve 1A. Now, let's look at 1B. If a school wanted to put a fence around the playground that costs $4 per meter, what would the total cost of the fence be? Right there, you need to know what fence around mean. Is that area, or is that something else you've learned in 3rd and 4th grade? Okay, I would think about that. Is this question going to be area, or is it going to be perimeter? Okay, that would be what I would think about for part B. So for number 1, when you submit it, I should have 1A, this is what I got, 1B, this is what I got, and this is how I solved it. All right, let's go to 2. Mrs. Baker sold 156 cupcakes at a food fair. The cupcakes were sold in a baker's dozen, which is 13. She sold all the cupcakes at $15 per box. How much money did she receive? For this one, I'm going to give you a hint. There should be 2 steps that you use to solve that question. I'm not going to go further than that. You guys need to do your who, what, and goal. You need to think carefully about what the 156 represents, what the 13 represents, what the 15 represents to understand how much money she received. So number 2 will be 2 steps worth of work. Number 3, it says if it takes Jawan exactly 35 minutes by car to get to his grandmother's apartment, the nearest parking area is a 4-minute walk from her apartment. One week, he realized he spent 5 hours and 12 minutes traveling to her apartment and then back home. How many round trips did it make to visit his grandmother? There is a lot of information there, friends. It might be wise for y'all to maybe draw a picture of this. So what I'm thinking is, say, this is Jawan, this is Gma, and then this, let's say, is parking. So it says if it takes exactly 35 minutes to get to the apartment, I would draw this and then maybe label this 35 minutes. Okay, then it says it's a 4-minute walk from her apartment to the parking area. Well, he's got to park his car, so he's going there, but then he's having to go to the parking. So I'm going to put from grandma's to parking is 4 minutes. So then it talks about how much he spent total in a week. And then y'all really need to think about round trips. Round trips mean to grandma's apartment and back to Jawan's house. A round trip is there and back. So really think about that when you're trying to do that. When you have wordy word problems like number 3, it's very helpful that you draw pictures to kind of visualize what's happening. That's what a problem solver does. So I hope those tips are helpful for you to conquer today's work. I also hope that you look back at how I modeled this problem if you're unsure of how to approach these. Any questions, reach out to me. I look forward to seeing your work on Canvas. Good luck.